So this series is going to be called 10 Rules for Living. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reduce and simplify just what do we do in the Christian life? What rules must we follow to live a life that will give God the honor and glory? And there are 10 rules. You know them as the 10 Commandments. Okay? So turn to Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 to 3. Exodus, the second book of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, the second book of the Bible, chapter 30, chapter 20, verses 1 to 3. All right? If you have it, Joe, it seems like you've settled on that. Would you like to read that for us?
And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me.
Okay. And so if you've been following in our morning devotions, you know that we're going through the book of Exodus, and we're up to about chapter 11 now, and you know it was a land of bondage, a land that was chaotic. Hey, that was chaos living. I mean, Pharaoh hated the Jewish people, the Egyptians hated the Jewish people. God raised up Moses and Aaron, and Moses didn't want to go, and Aaron, I mean, honestly, it was chaos. When God, listen to me now, this is very important. When God does a new thing, it fits into the study of chaos theory. A new marriage in the beginning, as you're trying to fit together, it's chaos. You know, if you're riding in the car together and you're newly married, the thermostat on the left side is set at 61, on the right side it's set at 78. Okay? And so it's chaos in the car, man. And then if you sleep on the one side of the bed, if you've got an electric blanket, I want a sizzle and a frizzle. Linda wants ice cold, and you know, it's hard to do all that kind of stuff. So I've got a good story that I want to tell you that is about chaos. You were given 2 tickets to the North Carolina Symphony Orchestra. They're holding a concert at the Raleigh Memorial Auditorium. You go and you take your seat, as you notice that this is no orchestra like you've ever seen before. First of all, you notice that when you arrive, the kettle drum player is having a barbecue in his drum. Okay? The lead violinist, when he draws his bow across the strings of his violin, he sticks his bow up the nose of the third trumpet player. Swinging his beaters wildly, the chief percussionist lets fly, and one of the beaters hits the first oboe player on the head. The only people who have sensibility, of course, are the saxophonists, who sit quietly in the corner waiting for the concert to start. Well, the conductor arrives, and he tells everybody to behave and put out the barbecue. Fix what needs to be fixed. Get the bow out of the trumpeter's ear, and he waves his baton around, and then he taps it. Now everybody knows we're going to start. Let's begin. 1, 2, 3. The saxophonists play Moonlight Serenade. The brass section plays Amazing Grace, and the guitars play I Love God More Than Oxygen. It's chaos. The conductor looks stunned, but he manages to stop the mess. And he says, no, wait, hold it a second. We're going to play Beethoven's Fifth Sympathy. Beethoven's Fifth Sympathy, okay? It's chaos. God, it's chaos. So they all turn to the right page of music and they're playing. So the illustration's a lot like life. I wonder how did everybody here today? You started the beginning of the week last week and you had plans. They were great plans. And you were going to tackle this project and they were going to do this project. And man, it was just chaos. You had set out that you would, hey listen, it's called L-I-F-E, life. And we are called church. God has an answer for this. On the theoretical side, the avenue of all my education is in the area of leadership. I didn't get much of a chance to do and to share some of the things that I've learned. But there's a theory of leadership. Just look it up. Wikipedia, and you'll find out about it. It's called chaos theory.
Cool.
Chaos theory. And you know, every time you do start something new, let's say you're a project manager, or you're a teacher and you've got a new class or a new grade, or you're tackling a new job, you're in construction, you're starting a new building, and you think, right, we're going to do this now, we're going to restore this house. So you take off some of the sheetrock and you notice there's no pink fiberglass. I did the house and flipped the house. It was built in 42. They didn't have pink fiberglass.
Nope.
We had to strip the whole blessed house to put pink fiberglass in. It was chaos. It was, and it took us longer, cost us more money, but it's life, L-I-F-E. Okay. On the theory of leadership, there's this chaos theory. Starting something new is messy and complicated. God coming down and at least creating the earth and the animals and the trees, it was messy. Man messed it up. God leading his people out of slavery in Egypt, boy, it was messy. They got fed up and said, we want to go back to Egypt. We're sick and tired of 40 years of manna and quail. Look, there's only so much you can do with manna. Okay? Manna burgers, manna shakes, manna on toast, fried manna, roast manna.
Manna soup.
Yeah, manna, you got it. Sooner or later, you're going to get ticked off with manna. And so you want to do something new. And a lot of people, when they want to do something new, they say, let's go back to what we had. We've seen that. This morning, people came around to our house and I prayed for them. They want to go back to what they had. That's their deal.
Oh, man.
Leading people out of Egypt to the promised land. What a mess. You know that they were at the point of being, I think it was Kiriath Jearim. That was the moment that and that's when Moses struck the rock. Was it Kiriath Jearim?
No.
Kadesh Barnea. Kadesh Barnea. He was at Kadesh Barnea, and then he messed up, and he struck the rock. And it's another 40 years of wandering around the Sinai.
Waters of Meribah.
Meribah, yeah, Meribah is the
Meribah.
core.
Okay, our Bible scholars are always going to get it right. Okay. And so there's, in chaos theory, going forward is always going to be messy. And so this kind of church, house church, it's not going to be for everybody who likes stained glass windows and, everybody has their place, has their seat. Here, you've got to bring your seat. You can put it anywhere, I don't care.
What on the roof?
No, not on the
You
roof.
said anywhere.
No. There are a couple of stepping stones that I'd like to share with you about chaos theory. 3 C's that I think you need to understand, and you will get an idea of what it's like. 3 C's of chaos theory. The first one is complexity. You can't come with a theory of, let's just talk about our church as we've started, 3C. Already we had complexity in trying to find a name. And it was a stepping stone that we had to discover what we want. We don't have organizational rules and leadership rules. We're just getting together to pray and to hear from God's word and to say to people, we want to do the things like the New Testament was done. Every day they met together and they prayed and sang and worshiped, and they met together in Solomon's portico. Solomon's portico was the entrance to the temple. And so here's all these Christians singing Amazing Grace and having a grand old time, and the Jews were going inside to worship while God was meeting with the Christians outside. It's complexity. It's difficult. It's, why did we do this? Why do we do that? Well, tell us a better way and we'll look at that. It's complex, and there's no way of doing this. Some denominations, I know the SBC has a way of planting a church. Linda and I planted a church once before, and it's very different to what we're doing now. And that's the cool thing about it. Because the second C is chaos. Second C is chaos. Complexity, chaos, confusion. We don't know what's happening. Thank God that Renee and TJ brought the sound bar and then had music that we can sing, and hopefully next week we can try and get a TV up here and or not. And so that's the nature of it. And the third C is contradictions. We are not like other churches. We are unique. We have a personality made up of the persona of every single person that's here. One thing I have learned in the little time that we are together is that the people in this church love to pray. And they love to pray for you. And I tell you what, you just put it on the women's group. Pray, thank the Lord they've included me. Okay? Well, I wasn't included before. It had to be secret. Now I even get to pray.
Did you realize that?
I know, okay, yeah. Thank you. And this is the only church, by the way, when you can chirp at the pastor and you can talk to each other while I'm preaching. No, that's the other virtual church.
Yeah, really.
Thinking about this, getting the Jews out of Egypt was very complex. Getting them across the Red Sea, imagine how that had to take place. Imagine how complex and difficult it was to get away. All the complexity. Did y'all like my story about one more night with the frogs? Did you remember when I spoke about that? Because Pharaoh said, we hate these dang frogs. I want to get rid of them. And so Moses said, when do you want me to get rid of the frogs? And Pharaoh said, tomorrow. Because he wanted another night with the frogs. And that's what many of us want. We want one more night doing the rubbish stuff that we shouldn't be doing. One more day. And when I get older, I will make my life right with God. When I'm on my deathbed and I have a lot of time. No, you don't need another night with the frogs. And by the way, it also happened with the flies. Golly, man. It's complex and it's difficult. Moses was unwilling and untalented, unable to speak. Pharaoh was stubborn and proud and self-centered. He had bad advisors. He used threats and intimidation. But God had a plan to free his people. And they had one common theme. They had one common theme. We want to go into the wilderness to worship God. Remember, Pharaoh said no. Then he said no, the men can go. Then he said no, the men and women can't go, but the animals can't go. It was a mess. It was a complex situation. And it's going to be complex here. And you're going to ask one of us, either Chris or myself or one of the other leaders in the church, you're going to say, what are we doing? What's our goal? Because we do have a common theme. And I can't think of any new fancy phrase right now. But all I can think about is the Westminster Catechism. To glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. I want church to be where we can come together, and even a kid can chirp up in church, and nobody says, "Did." You may not do that. What's with that? What's with that? What's with that? The world today says we don't need a common theme. I want you to listen carefully now. We don't need a common theme. We are very different, but we must accept one another just as they are. No matter what sort of person, if you're gay or LGBTQI plus IA, doesn't matter. We must accept one another no matter what the tune you are playing in life. If you're a child molester, you are really just, there's a woke word for it. It's disgusting.
It is.
A minor attracted.
Minor attracted. What is that? That is the woke. We accept everything. If you're gay, lesbian, or a murderer, if you're a criminal, we must accept you as you play your instruments in life. We must accept that you've been dealt a different hand than the rest of us. Everything is normal. God accepts everyone, and all the roads lead to Rome. If you're a Hindu, a Muslim, if you're what, it doesn't matter what you are, you'll all get to the same place. That is the false gospel of the world. I can't say it any clearer than that. The news I have for you today is that it's not fun, and it's not normal. And I want to say to you today that Christianity makes the claim for exclusivity. It is the one unique, only way to God. It is the one and only true faith. You can't make the claim. The reason why we need the 10 Commandments, or as I call them, 10 Rules for Living, is so that we can have one common theme. I can probably remember 10 things. I can probably remember that there is only one God. You see, the Christian life is not meant to be lived in isolation, tooting my own flute and having the bow of the violinist stick in my ear. The Christian life was meant to be lived in harmony. And it's certainly more a concert performance than a solo effort. Have you been in a place where it's not a concert performance, but it's more all the trumpeters get together and do their own thing, all the stringed instruments want to do their own thing, all the drummers want to do their own thing? I was just watching the other day the Edinburgh Tattoo, and they have that drumming group from Switzerland called Top Secret. Man, I tell you something. If ever you want to see a great video, watch the video Top Secret at the Edinburgh Tattoo. It is absolutely amazing because they act and play in harmony. And that's what Christian life is to be. You can't have church where leaders want to go off and do their own thing. You can't have church where people say, I want to do it my way. I want to do it the way it has been done. And so here we want to do it Jesus' way. And we must align ourselves with His way and not vice versa. In a recent survey article in Newsweek, only 49% of Protestant people could name even 4 of the commandments. And I'm going to teach you a rhyme to remember them. Okay? Thou shalt have no gods but me, before no idol bow the knee. Take not the name of God in vain, nor dare His Sabbath day in vain. And so it's a cool, I'll get it printed out for you, and and you can learn those 10 commandments. If nothing else during this series, we'll learn what they are, and then we'll achieve something significant in our lives. In 1 John 5:3, God tells us that His commands are not burdensome. It's not a pain to do this. You know, it's not a pain to help one another. It's not a pain to be a servant of God. It's not a pain when somebody has a need to contribute towards that. It's not a pain to obey God and what He says. It's a joy to do that. You know, one of the things that I loved going overseas was to meet Brian and Doris. Oh, guys, I tell you what, they are, those of you who went on holiday with them will know, they are the sweetest people, man. And their church is just the great. I wish we could all just save up and go on holiday to the Isle of Wight. Oh, man. They are just such wonderful, helpful people. And we are too. Lynn and I have experienced such help from people, such love and people with a servant spirit and helping take care of the needs. This is going to be, I was just thinking the other day, it's going to be my final resting place. Doesn't sound great, but this is where we want to live and stay and witness. We've already met the neighbors around us. We've got Maggie next door, and we've got Hunter and Charles up the road, and we've got Joe who's doing the barbecue for the opening when we all get settled down. We're going to support that guy. But it's chaos. We have plans. They don't always materialize. And so, what are these rules, 10 rules for living, and how do they operate in my life? In order to answer that question, you have to understand the difference between a map and a compass. This is very important.
Easy. A map doesn't say northwest, east, or south, but a compass does.
Yeah, but a map sometimes has northwest, south, or east on it. You see it printed on there.
One shows direction, the other shows location.
Okay? It would be great if we had a map of life. When you were born, your mommy or daddy gave you this map of life, and it plots each step of a course along the way. Have you ever thought back in your life and said, man, if I only didn't do that, my life would have been different?
Every day.
You know, if I hadn't gone to the party, you know, where I met Linda, she would have had to chase me a lot harder.
Me and Renee has talked about that because, like you just said on that, God had meant for you two to be together, whether you went to that party or not, somewhere in life.
You see, that's God's providence. Right, okay, I want to go down to chase a rabbit. Okay. We don't have a map of life because it's not possible, because our lives change every day because of chaos theory. It's complexity, and you've got to deal with it. You've got to deal with the changes in your life. I am having an enormous struggle after this last heart attack. I'm having an enormous struggle. People say to me, go and sit down. And they're right. I ought to be doing that. But I have this enormous thing going on, and it's based on pride. Because this chaotic life that I have to live now, if I want to live it longer, I'm going to have to make some serious changes. Our lives change direction all the time. Sometimes the going is easy, and we cruise along at 100 miles an hour. Other days we plod along and make 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. And so it's not possible to have a map. You can't have a map for your life that marks out the terrain and what to avoid. Some people are handed maps by their parents. And their parents say, well, In order to be a success, you've got to do things in a certain way, attend a certain college. You've got, in my understanding, in order to be a success, I map out for my children and my grandchildren, you've got to get a degree. A degree is the basic minimum. Now, back in the day, it was just to get a, what's GCE? What do we call it here?
GED.
Okay,
High
whatever
school
that.
diploma.
Okay, you just get that. You know, when I was a kid, to get a trade, you could leave school in the 10th grade. And lots of my buddies did, and they were earning money and driving junk old cars. And here I was, my mom wouldn't let me. And so, there's no map of how you can do your life. So what do we need instead of a map? We need a compass. Now listen. In fact, to be more specific, we need a moral compass. And to be more specific, we need a moral compass that points us to the only true and living God. Thou shalt have no God but me. And we need a moral compass that points always to God. A compass, if you have it, a compass, it always points to magnetic north. No matter where you are in the world.
And that's the difference. That's the difference. A map is drawn in relation to north, but a magnet in a
Always
compass
points.
always points to true north.
Gosh, you guys are good at this. I love this. Because this is what it is. I want always to be pointed to the truth. And I tell you what, it's got me in trouble. It's got you in trouble. Every one of you here, it's got you in trouble. Because you want to do what is right. You always want to do what is right. You want to do what is right. Why is a compass better than a map? First of all, a compass orientates people in a certain direction, no matter where they are. Because of the circumstances of your life, and the change from day to day, and the fact that whether you agree with me or not, chaos theory actually is one of the things that you can experience in your life. Changing a job, doing this. You know, I experience chaos theory, Danny, when I play golf. Because I'm a much better golfer than I was. Now when I stand in front of that blessed ball, my mind is in chaos. I tell you what, I don't know if it's going to hook, slice, duff. There are 50,000 blessed things that can go wrong. It's chaos on the golf course. But I'm around my buddies. And they all encourage. Daddy is the best encourager that you've ever heard. The fact that the guy that I play with is 83 and has got one leg and beats me. You know, when I was running a marathon, I ran behind a guy with one leg. And I tried my best to overtake him. And on the Two Oceans marathon, I mean, I'm 48. And there was a woman, I said to her, excuse me, darling, how old are you? She says, I'm 74. I thought, please, Jesus, let me beat this woman. And it was chaos. I was sweating and coughing and puking and falling over. Thank the Lord she had to go to the bathroom. And then I said, I'm in front now, and come whatever. Boy, I'm going to stay in. It's chaos. It's life. But you know what? In life, I knew that my compass was always pointing. Whether I was aware of it, my compass is always pointing north. What is happening to me, it really is irrelevant. Change comes from day to day. Having a map would almost be an impossibility. But if you have a compass, and that compass points to thou shalt have no God but me. That's true north. That's true north. Look, not all of us get it right all the time. In our tithing, in our giving, we don't get it right. But we should at least start somewhere and work to the minimum that God sets, 10%. I'm just going to tell you, that's what I do. Linda and I are biblical tithers. We always will be. And we are we are very happy that anybody can see. I don't want to fight with God over that. I want God always to point that compass true north, true north, true north. The next thing is, secondly, many of us are plotting uncharted territory. Some of you go to a new school, start university, start a new job. It's uncharted territory. And I can tell you now it's going to be chaos. And in the middle of that chaos, when the manager says you're not allowed to put a Bible on your desk, okay? That's a challenge. Okay, is that a hill I'm going to die? Probably for me not. Thank you so much. I'll put the Bible away, I'll bring it out in my lunchtime, and I'll read it out loud. Deal with that, big boy. Christians, hey guys, it's like when Joshua entered the promised land. Do you remember? I once cut these letters out of styrofoam and put them on the church wall, and one of the deacons took them off. We have not passed this way before. We haven't. We have not. This is new. We're all used to going to church, sitting in the pew, having Renee play for us and TJ's do it. We're used to that. At a certain point, the deacons come marching down the aisle, and it's not going to be like that anymore. It's going to be different. But our pointer always points to true north. It always points to the thou shalt have no gods but me. I tell you what, in this unfolding chaos and complexity, I like it. I like it, man. In my life, I've restored many a car. And one of the things I love in restoring a car, guys, is when you take the head off, and you see what's in those pots, and you feel that if it's worn out, and it's like this, man, what am I? And you take the crankshaft and you pull it down, and you see how the bearings are worn. And it's chaos, Somebody, usually they say, oh, I restored this 5 years ago. And you look in there and the crankshaft is 100,000 undersized. So you know they're lying. But you discover that as you go. And for me, it's exciting and it's interesting. And so, against that background, the background of uncharted territory, the background of going where you haven't gone before, the first thing that you need to realize is that God wants you to look at Him, Gage. Look at Him, wait. Thou shalt have no gods with me. That's true north. Tell you what, you get that first one right. Thou shalt have no gods with me. Get that true north principle. Okay, what he's saying here is that only God is worthy to be worshipped. And the reason is because God has intrinsic worth. I can't tell you what God's intrinsic worth is, but I can tell you, Cheryl, I can tell you what your intrinsic worth is. Okay? Humans are made up mostly of water and iron, some potassium, and probably $10 worth of chemical stuff. I should ask Stacy about that. That's your intrinsic worth. Maybe about $10. Our intrinsic worth isn't worth very much. But on top of that, looking at it from a spiritual perspective, the Bible tells us we have been made in the image of God. And I call that derived dignity. You know what? I honor you, and I tell you what, I dignify you because you have derived dignity, because you've been made in the image of God, and He don't make junk. You get that right. Your dignity is not because of your academic prowess or your background or your experience. Your dignity is derived because you are a child of God, created in His image. Your self-worth is, and that's what the world points to all the time. Your intrinsic worth is huge, says all these worldly people, man. No, my intrinsic worth as human being is about $10. But my worth in terms of derived dignity, it's immeasurable. You, guys, get this right. You're worth dying for. You are worth dying for. Ask Jesus. And so, God's dignity, listen to this now. This is some good theology. God's intrinsic worth is in Himself. It's in Himself. He is God. There are no gods but me. His dignity is in Himself. Our dignity as a derived dignity from God. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the house of slavery. Intrinsic worth in God. We could say because of His redeeming work. And I guess that's part of it. But that's not really it. His intrinsic worth is Himself. He is God. There is no other. People tell you it doesn't matter what you believe. If you want to worship God and read your horoscope, you can do that. I hope you don't do that. I hope you don't go dousing for water. In my first church, a woman said to me that I do that and it's a gift from God. I said, no, it's not. It's a gift from Satan. And she hated me from that moment onwards. Because it's dousing for water is, what is it? It starts with the D. Divining. Thanks very much. Thanks, Jack. Jack, you still there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And listening.
But here's something that I want you to remember. We're getting to the end of this now. We often pray, Lord, let your kingdom come. Have you prayed that prayer?
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
God is not going to do that until you let your kingdom go. Don't pray, Lord, let your kingdom come, until you have said, Lord, let my kingdom go. Let me be happy and content to be with a group of people and just see what God is going to do. That's all I have. That's all I want. I have seen some people, I'm not going to call people out and embarrass them, but I've seen them growing in their Christian life. And we all have hurdles and things that we need to conquer. That's because life is chaotic. And the characteristics of chaos is complex and chaos. Complexity. Okay. There are two things that why did I write this down here? I've written about two things about, I wrote, Lord, your kingdom come, but until you pray, Lord, my kingdom go. That's not going to happen. Okay? Then I wrote here about sensual. Let's wrap these up today. I heard the dong. That's a good thing to have. Why are these 10 rules important? Because they act like a bridle. They act like a bridle. And they slow us down. They let us go. They turn us left. They turn us right. They stop so we can get on and off.
They give us direction.
They give us direction. And it comes back to that true north. thou shalt have no gods but me. God's 10 rules are like a thermometer. No other gods. I can look at my Christian life and the 10 commandments give me a thermometer to tell me what my relationship with God is like. And we need a thermometer, but we also need a thermostat. A thermometer just records the temperature. A thermostat adjusts the temperature. And if your temperature is being adjusted, maybe it's because there's something wrong in your life. Okay, 10 commandments are like a guardian. They bring us to the point of realization of our weaknesses and our failure. And it's to guard us from going off the beaten track. And that's why number 1 is so important. True north. True north. I have derived dignity. And so Jesus said, I have not come to break the law, to destroy the law, but I have come to fulfill it. And the word fulfill there means, I have come to give you life in its full meaning. I've come to give you life in its full meaning. And that's what God wants to do for us. Welcome to 10 Rules for Living. You've learned today about derived dignity. You are a child of God. Don't let anybody, unfortunately we do, we let people put others down. We don't want to talk about that. Derived dignity. Don't speak about the children of God in any derogatory way. And it's contrary. It's hard to do. It's not an easy thing to do. It's hard to do. Secondly, we have learned that this important commandment, thou shalt have no gods but me, gives us a true north principle and points us always, no matter where we are, to God. We don't have a map of our lives. We have a map to get back to the house. You know, that's great. But let's just think of life. You don't know. Tomorrow you're going to tackle something and you think, well, I've done this before, it's easy, and wham, it goes belly up. True north principles, derive dignity. Don't say thy will be done until you say my will must go.